Well, we get reaction now by Judges Matters Co-ordinator Alison Tilley joining us via video link. Alison, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So a quick change happening here as we see the end of July going into August. Lots of changes happening. But I think important, though, the decision made by the President, Justice Dunstan Mlambo as Deputy Chief Justice, do you approve?
I'm not sure that it's for me to approve, but I'm certainly very pleased by the appointment. We've known the new Deputy Chief Justice for many years now as a judicial leader across different courts, and we've seen him be able to deal with many of the challenges and some of the opportunities that come in a judicial leadership role. So yes, I think we're pleased and confident that he'll be able to take on the job and make a difference.
Yeah, I think the process that got us to this point is just as important as who takes the position. The President, of course, calling it a robust, transparent and inclusive interview process undertaken by the JSC. Talk to us about what you make of the process that we saw unfolding where those interviews are concerned.
Well, I think it's become a useful way of testing what the candidate is really interested in and what they have as a vision for a leadership position. And I think that's something that was really tested during the interview process. And the now Deputy Chief Justice indicated, I think, that he had an interest not just in the law itself, but the mechanisms, the machinery of the law. How you make sure that courts work, that there are good judges available for matters when matters are ready to be heard. It's a range of issues that I think he indicated where his interest is going to lie going forward.
Yeah, and I'm keen to hear more of that, but also just as we do that, perhaps we can actually have a little bit of a comparison against Justice Mlambo and certainly those that he was up against, Free State Judge President Kagni Musi, Northern Cape Judge President Pule Tlaletsi, and Justice Mahube Molemela, who withdrew. But what you make of the candidates that he was up against?
Well, I think in some ways they were at a disadvantage because they come from smaller divisions. Mm. And the test, of course, for a leader is not necessarily occasionally being a good leader. We can probably, many of us can manage that, but it's being a good leader all the time, every day, in a really high pressure environment. And not only being able to deal with that pressure, but look around you and see what needs changing, what needs improving. And I think that was really where the Justice Mlambo stood out in terms of his interview, in being able to not just show that he was able to manage the position that he was in, but that he would be able to go up again and do something similar and maybe more in the position of Deputy Chief Justice, which is a big role.
Yeah, you talk about coming from a high-pressure environment, and I immediately think about how he's come from the position of Gauteng Judge President. Goodness, I mean, what an incredibly important province with so much traffic, particularly where the judiciary is concerned. Some of the main challenges that you think he would have dealt with and the strengths that he then brings into Concord, having come from Gauteng?
Well, I think one of the things that we know is that he's been a strong leader in terms of the jurisprudence and in terms of difficult cases. And I think that's one of the things that we expect to see from Judges President, which is that when difficult matters, political matters around which there's a lot of debate and contestation, when they arrive at the court, they need to be dealt with by senior judges and dealt with as quickly as possible. And I think that's something that he's really made part of his playbook, that he makes sure that matters don't sit around. He wants matters case managed. He wants them coming through the system as quickly as possible, and putting together really good panels of judges if that's needed, in order to deal with the high pressure cases. So I think that's something we've seen him do. Some of the other things we've seen him do is with the introduction of things like case lines and court online. I think that's something that is now being rolled out to other courts. But I would imagine we will continue to see innovation like that now in the Constitutional Court and of course across the courts across the country.
Yeah, I'm looking at his biography and just looking at some of the highlights of his career, and really interesting. I mean, some of the most difficult times of our country, of course, being COVID-19 pandemic. We went into that lockdown. He issued the first set of directives on how the court should operate in the interim as we, as a country, still try to figure out what systems we operate. Perhaps take us back to some of the judgments and moves that he's made that really stand out for you.
Well, I think that was a moment where, you know, it's I think demonstrating leadership where you're in a difficult situation and people are looking to you for answers. And I think that's been a situation which he's stepped up over time. I mean, he's interesting things that he's been involved in. He's the president of the African chapter of the International Association of Refugee and Migrant Law Judges. You know, a speciality he's sort of quietly developed, and something that he's been involved in and is very passionate about.
Yeah.
So that, I think, also his involvement in legal aid in South Africa and paralegals, with his interest in access to justice and how you really make that work.
Yeah.
So I think such a range of different things.
Yeah, lots ahead for him, of course, and we'll be watching very closely as he steps into that position of Deputy Chief Justice, Justice Dunstan Mlambo. Now, he steps into the chair that was occupied by Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga, who's going to be, his name is going to be said quite a lot in the 6 months that come. He goes into retirement today and then, of course, takes over leading what we'll now officially call the Mazanga, or unofficially call the Mazanga Commission. Looking into the allegations made by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi today, also overseeing the issue of Nkosana Makate, things that he should be considering. And I'm talking now about Justice Madlanga at a moment like this, as he goes into retirement but takes on another mountain. And if you think that certainly the outcomes of the Makate issue, tell us a little bit about who he is and how he'll take things forward in the commission.
Well, I think it's hardly going to be a retirement, is it? It's going to be a real hot potato. And I think one of the things that we've been concerned about is the allegations around potential judicial corruption. And this comes up from time to time. These allegations are made. And of course, it's really important that they be immediately investigated. And if there is substance to them, that be acted on. And if there is no substance, that the rumor is then put to bed. And we know that that's one of the things that has been mentioned, and we would really be calling on him to deal with that as a matter of priority, because once you start questioning the judicial system and judges, it's very difficult to maintain the rule of law. It's difficult to insist that people must comply with court orders. It creates a lot of difficulty, and it doesn't mean that you should shy away from it and dealing with the allegations, but it is something that we would really hope he prioritizes.
Yeah, we'll be watching that closely. Alison, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. Alison Tilley there of Judges Matter speaking to us. All right.